Folks, the American Spring is starting. The Arab Spring was the Soros-backed destabilization of the Middle East that fomented the multiple government coups and the present war in Syria that will soon spill over to Jerusalem, as a way to enforce the UN Palestinian decree.
That's right. Soros used the regional destabilization to pour militant young Muslim men into Europe and the US. Now he's causing the leftists in those affected countries to embrace their Muslim invaders as they freely rape and pillage, and by extension embrace every fanatical left-leaning ideology and organization that will stand with them in unity.
Exactly. This is where we get Black Lives Matter, radical feminists, Muslim activists, homosexual lobbyists, Hispanic immigrationists, drug legalizationists, social anarchists, militant atheists, and nihilists, who all see their common enemy, straight white Christian men.
And now this Soros army has announced American Spring. They need warm weather to hit the streets, which will be the toppling of Trump, and the civil war with all of the conservatives who can see just how evil this uprising is. Expect martial law as American society fully collapses.
Expect all of America's enemies to take advantage of this moment of weakness to attack and invade the US and her allies, Israel and NATO. Expect Iran to lead attack, forcing the Battle of Armageddon and World War III during the social melee.
The Muslims will sweep across Christian nations and Israel, bringing Christians and Jews to their knees. But NATO will respond by pulverizing Muslim countries. Here's the kicker. Muslims respect Christians and Jews as Abrahamic brothers, but Muslims see all of those leftist organizations as infidels who should be killed for their beliefs and practices. So they will turn on those leftist groups and slaughter them.
This is why Trump had to be elected, to get the Christian conservatives united against the leftists, and to get the leftists mad enough to take radical action. Nobody was willing to do this under Obama because the leftists loved him and were happy, and the Christian conservatives were suppressed and afraid of being called racist. So Trump, his words, actions, and views is the catalyst that pulls all of Pike's factions on the march against each other all over the world. And all of this is waiting for the warmth of spring to begin.
On a previous episode of ABN Uncut, we gave you some background on George Soros and really started to paint the picture as to what he's truly involved in. And on subsequent broadcasts, we've done a lot to show you what's going on in places like Europe and the Middle East and the US, and how a lot of the civil unrest there is related to George Soros institutions. Now, with the anticipated climax of what the many people in the media are calling the American Spring, we're getting a greater sense as to just how deep the collusion between George Soros and the U.S. government really is, especially with some of the recent headlines that have come out just in the past week.
It has been reported that 7 U.S. senators signed a letter to Secretary of State Rex Tillerson asking him to use, quote, authority to investigate all funds associated with promoting democracy and governance and review the programs, accounts, and multiplicity of U.S. entities involved in such activities. Now, these activities are alluding to this ongoing controversy in Macedonia because U.S. taxpayer dollars have been claimed to have been funding projects mainly through George Soros' Open Society Foundation.
Yeah, according to the letter, the American government agency USAID has been awarding millions in funding to the OSF to, quote, push a progressive agenda and invigorate the political left. Now, Macedonia, yes, that is a major concern, but not the biggest concern shown by these U.S. senators who have seen this following a very disturbing pattern of activity. In fact, Albania was also listed as a primary example, as well as Latin American and African countries. Now, apparently, many foreign leaders visiting Washington recently have expressed concerns about how American taxpayer dollars are funding counterproductive measures in their respective nations.
If you recall, we previously have reported that Soros' home country, Hungary, disapproves of his meddling in other countries' affairs and does not want him disrupting their political endeavors. Prime Minister Viktor Orban again has warned of his, quote, transborder empire. Now, even the Hungarian foreign minister is not biting his tongue about Soros, but he is still somewhat hopeful. He has been quoted saying, "I think it is no secret and everyone knows about the very close relationship between the Democrats and George Soros and his foundations. It is obvious that if Hillary Clinton had won, then this pressure on us would be much stronger. With Donald Trump winning, we have the hope that this pressure will be decreased on us."
Right, because now Obama is out of the office, and the right is seeing this as an opportunity to create more resistance against Soros-backed institutions. However, George Soros has his finger on a trigger of his own sitting atop U.S. soil. Back last Thursday, Mr. Soros contributed an op-ed piece to the New York Times. He said that President Trump's immigration policy and his treatment of aliens has not made the country safer. Instead, it's actually made the country more dangerous. Yes, this is true, that hate crimes are on the rise and the U.S. is becoming increasingly more divided. Soros called for a fight against hate crimes, claiming that this would unify us more. Now, keep in mind, this is the same man who funded violent revolts and stoked civil unrest in several countries around the world, and now we're seeing clear signs that he is preparing to do this on a much larger scale within the United States.
We all need to stay vigilant and stand up united. Not only that, but another thing to note is that a civil war in Macedonia could potentially push a proxy war between the U.S. and Russia, seeing that Russia has, quote, accused the West of meddling in Macedonia's internal affairs to further its own agenda. So, as you can see, this funded meddling is pointing directly to many of Soros's foundations and this far left agenda.
Yeah, so we continue here to paint the picture that many of today's governments are doing more to create global strife, and many leaders are just helpless to stop this wave of destructive behavior. So there's really only one solution here, and that's to unify, of course, but not according to the agenda of the biblical man of lawlessness, George Soros.
Was it difficult? Not at all. Not at all.
And there you have it. Please push this out to your friends and family via social media. Don't forget to like and subscribe for all of the updates.
Repent to the Messiah, Lord Rael, while you still have the opportunity, and may God bless and protect you in the holy name of Rael. Amen.
Did you get any of that?